Welcome to Hardwood Handicappers with Zach Cohen, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Zachary Cohen, VSiN.com senior editor with another episode of Hardwood Handicappers. Today I am joined by Jonathan Von Tobel, a highly caffeinated Jonathan Von Tobel, co-host of VSiN's Money Moves and also the Pod to the Futures podcast, wherever you get your podcast. JVT, how are you doing today? We are recording on Thursday, January 15th at 6 a.m. Pacific time.
I pride myself in derailing things is the way that I do it. I do local radio. I like to just, come in off the cuff and bring up some wild stuff. And your reference to me being caffeinated was I barged in today and was just like, yeah, dude, I'm at like 340 already in terms of the milligrams of caffeine. Got to keep this thing going. So yes, I'm ready to go. And generally, I do not crash out. I'm pretty good at maintaining throughout the day. So we'll see how it goes. But I'll probably throw down another like 200 before Money Moves today.
I always think that I drink a lot of coffee, but I have like two espresso-based drinks a day, so I'm probably not having.
That's more than you think.
Is it? What is it? What would like 2 shots of espresso be like milligrams?
Two shots of espresso is about the same as like your normal energy drink.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so it's like I think it's just below. I think it's that range of like a Monster. So this is how much of a caffeine freak I am. The Monsters are about 155 milligrams of caffeine. Then you have like things like Rain or Ghost. Those energy drinks are in the range of 200. Or excuse me, not Rain. The Ghost ones are 200. The Rain ones are 300. So there's different like levels to how much caffeine are in each one of these. Then you get into the thermogenic ones, which are kind of used for pre-workouts. So yeah, I know what I'm talking about here. And as a former barista, I have insight on the coffee caffeine content as well. So I'm a caffeine connoisseur, if you will. But espresso does have a lot more than you think it does. So I think you're in the range of about, if you have like 2 of them, and you said you have 2 a day, so you're probably in the range of like 2 Monsters a day.
All right, I'll take it. I don't want to think that I'm too sauce. I think that's solid.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you were shaming me, so that's why I needed to bring you down a peg,
I was only shaming you because it's only 6 a.m. your time, and you've already had an absolute ton. So I've
been up for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right, well, let's talk about last night's games a little bit. I mean, I don't think that there was too much to take away, but do you disagree with me there? I mean, outside of Cavs beating the 76ers big, I think that was really the big result for me.
Yeah, I don't think there was like anything big. I'd say the 2 things that I wanted to note in passing were, first off, Sacramento, whatever's gotten into them. Then I know that Jalen Brunson went down. That was a weird ankle injury. It's like he dragged his foot on the floor and with the tip of his shoe just got caught and twisted his ankle. So, because initially I read it was non-contact. I was like, ooh, I got to go watch this because I was watching college hoops late last night. And then I went back and I was just like, that's weird. So what that means going forward, obviously the Knicks play today. We can talk about that a little bit later. And just that the Kings all of a sudden have like some life to them. I think Russillo tweeted out yesterday, Kings buyers. So all of a sudden.
They're probably going to be.
Yeah, they might be. Who knows? And the other is, and I tweeted this, or I texted you guys during the day yesterday. And I think I texted you again during the game as well. I know that Cooper Flagg got injured in that game against the Denver Nuggets. I continue to be impressed with David Edelman. I added him for Coach of the Year yesterday at 66-1. I moved the market, Zach, and went down to 41 immediately over at MGM. It's still 50-1 at DraftKings right now, 60-1 yesterday. I think he's got a legitimate Coach of the Year candidacy if they're going to come out of this stretch without Jokic, which might be shorter than we initially expected. And if they're going to come out with a better record than when they were, improving on their record, I should say, than where they were when he went down, I think this has been a wildly impressive stretch from the Denver Nuggets. And the impressive part is almost every single night, it's a different guy. Peyton Watson has all of a sudden kind of emerged over these last few games, which has been good for them because when you get into the postseason, these are good minutes for him to have. Last night, when you look at who carried the load for them too, Jamal Murray, LaMelo Ball, 33 points, 13 of 24. He was great. So to me, that I think is actually one of the big takeaways. I know Nuggets Mavericks isn't as sexy as people wanted it to be, but that team continuing to win now 5-3 post Jokic injury, I think Adelman's got a really strong case for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, Adelman definitely has a really strong case. I just kind of wonder if, like, in the grand scheme of things over 82 games, if they're going to, like, forget this recent stretch once Joker comes back later in the month. And I do think that that's going to be a little bit sooner than we all anticipated. Like you just said, like Shams Charania reported last night that it could be the end of January. And he made a note specifically to say that it could be in time for him to have eligibility left for most valuable player. And I was kind of looking at it, like, if he comes back, like, in the 24th, 25th range, for January. Like he will have like 3 games to spare the rest of the season, which is actually really interesting because, not to jinx him or anything, but before this injury, this is not a guy that misses a lot of games. So if he has 3 games to spare over the next couple of months, like it is actually becoming really interesting for MVP. And I saw him out there at like 14-1 at like Hard Rock. It's the only place I saw him listed. And I think he's going to win if he's eligible. So that's why I think it's interesting.
I'm with you. I mean, he's going to, and when he plays, he's like an Iron Man. Like he doesn't really miss time. So I'm with you that I might add a little bit there too, just to see. I have Cade at 30-1 because I threw that in there because I do think he's going to be in consideration the way he's playing, the way the Pistons are kind of maintaining their spot at the top of the East, and then with him as well. And I think we mentioned this last week, and I'd love to get your thoughts just briefly because I know we have a lot of games to get to, but I think Jalen Brown's kind of like a fake MVP candidate.
Yeah.
If you really look at his impact on the floor, their net rating actually gets worse. Cade Cunningham's impact on the Pistons net rating is actually twice what Jalen Brown has done for the Boston Celtics. He's really just a symptom of higher volume and usage, and so I don't think that the voters are going to look at him realistically and say that he's going to win MVP. So I think we're taking shots everywhere else. And right now, Cade's still out there at some double digits, I believe, last time I looked, but Jokic might be the ad here if he's going to be back.
Yeah, I think that all of the other guys are like fake MVP candidates, to be honest. You're just hoping almost for SGA not to play 65 games, which it really seems like he's going to. So it's just not really a fun market to really handicap. But if Joker comes back, we're going to be able to start talking about it again. So that's kind of what I'm rooting for. But
Jokic is going to be in Spider-Man 2. Remember when they carried him like through the subway? And they were like, remember when he stopped the train and he got all injured and they caught him before he fell and then they carried him through and they gave him his mask back? Like, that's going to be Jokic for us. We have to slay Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Spider-Man, we need you to get rid of Doc Ock. And so everybody's going to be like, thank God you're back. Please come and save us.
Is this Tobey Maguire Spider-Man too?
Yeah. Why are you questioning this? This is the best superhero movie ever created.
Because the best Spider-Man 2 is the one with Andrew Garfield that everybody else hates, where there's like a scene where he's in his room, like trying to piece together the mystery, and like they're playing Gone by Philip Phillips. It's like the weirdest scene I've ever seen. Got to go back and watch it.
I mean, I've seen them all. I'm like, Spider-Man's my guy. It's my favorite hero, but there's no way in hell that that's the best Spider-Man 2.
It's the worst, but it's the worst, but it's like unintentionally funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. That's if you remember The Happening with Mark Wahlberg and Zooey Deschanel, it was an M. Night Shyamalan movie, but it was so bad I saw it in theaters like 2 or 3 times as a teenager because we would just go and laugh at it. So I guess I can understand that.
All right, well, let's get into tonight's games if you don't have anything else from last night, because there are a bunch, like you just said, and there is one starting at 2 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time. The Grizzlies and the Magic are clashing in Berlin, I believe it is.
Yep.
The Magic are 4.5-point favorites in this game. The total is 229.5, and both of the Wagner boys are back for Orlando. So the Magic are finally healthy here. Do you have anything in this game?
So I just have thoughts. First off, faux home game for the Magic, considering the Wagner support. I mean, seriously, right? They're probably going to have a lot of people out there. For our audience who doesn't know, German basketball's hot. I mean, they're at the top of the international world in terms of the World Cup, and I believe they just won another tournament this last summer, somewhere around
basket.
there. Yep. Yeah. So I think this is kind of like a Magic home game, considering the presence of the Wagner brothers, and also the Grizzlies apparently hate each other. So, I mean, this seems. The fact that they're kind of healthy here and you're going to get Franz back, and I think they've needed this. I kind of want an early morning sweat, especially because we'll be on the air at Money Moves when this starts at 11 o'clock. I lean toward Orlando. It's 4.5. We're starting to get up to 5. I think the market's getting right and pushing this up. I would expect this closes at about 5.5 or so, but given the faux home court that they might have, at least in terms of fan support, the return of Wagner, and really the only notable name on the injury report being Jalen Suggs, and the length of the Grizzlies injury report, as we know, seems like a better spot than maybe being accounted for Orlando today.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I lean Orlando in this game. I didn't actually end up taking it. I did take Anthony Black over 15.5 points at -115 just because he's averaging 19.8 points per game without Jalen Suggs. I'm sure his usage will get down a little bit with Franz back. Franz is going to run a ton of the offense, but 20-plus points in 7 of the last 9 games he's played without Suggs. Grizzlies just 23rd in the league defending pick-and-roll ball handlers and pretty weak defending above the break threes. I think this is a really good matchup for Black. But, yeah, I think that the Magic really should win this game. I'm really excited to see Orlando if they can get really healthy, because I do think that we've kind of seen a little bit more, structure and like unpredictability with the offense this year, even though it's been, up and down throughout the course of the season. But the Bane stuff has mostly looked good, and, bringing Wagner back into it, that's your, best two-way player. So I think it's going to be a really good team the rest of the season.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, they're similar to the Cavs in that, everybody was kind of freaking out for a point. And my whole thing was like, folks, it's December, now January, and they have not been healthy. They've not been the team that they expected to be at all throughout this entire year. When Wagner went down, we saw Suggs go. Obviously, he's been injured. So I'm with you in that they're probably better than given credit for. And I get this as a neutral, but I still think they should probably get a little bit more of a juice bump considering where and who they're going to be playing in front of. So all that considered, and the fact that Ja Morant's kind of just an a-hole, I think that I'd go with the Orlando Magic here.
Yeah, I don't even understand why Ja flew to Berlin for this game. Like, you're trying to trade him, and like everybody hates him. Why is he with the team? He's starting to like fights with Vince Williams. Like, I just don't understand.
And he's also like, because I think Tim McMahon has a great thing. He calls it the production to pain in the ass ratio. And it's such a good point. And he's definitely on the other side of the spectrum now. Yeah. And you know what you're doing when you're buying a house out there in Miami and doing all these things. And here's the other part that annoys me, because like there was a report yesterday or the day before that like Miami might be on the top of his list. Brother, they're running the offense that you pissed and moaned about last year.
Yep.
So what are we talking about? He is, and I think you agree with me, he has fallen so far down in terms of my perception of him, both as a player and just as a person. I just want him to get traded and for him to shut up. It's really annoying.
I was already there with him as a person, but now that he's like not actually productive as a player, it's like even more annoying. So I don't know, like I'm at the point where I think that like he's the third best guard on the Grizzlies right now, and their and their rotation is absolutely horrible. Their guard rotation. So yeah, I mean maybe a change of scenery will help him. Like you better hope it does, but I don't know why a team would give up legitimate assets for him. I think that the return for him is going to look maybe worse than the one we saw for Trae Young.
Yep, would agree.
All right, well, let's move on now to Suns at Pistons. The Pistons are laying 6.5. Totals 222.5. This game tips at 7 p.m. Eastern. Devin Booker, questionable tonight with the left ankle sprain. It was an injury that kind of looked bad in real time, but he did end up playing through it towards the end of last night or 2 nights ago. And Jalen Green out for seemingly one more game for Phoenix. So do you have anything in this game? It looks like the Pistons are going to have their full rotation.
Yes, and this is one I wanted to ask you about here, a player prop. You mentioned O'Neal as well, who's not going to play, I believe, on the injury report for the Suns too. Is Grayson Allen putting up like 15 3-point attempts today? Didn't he put up 14 the other day? So his 3-point makes is over 2.5, and it's a fair price at a lot of spots. Minus 105, minus 115. I thought anything Grayson Allen, especially if Booker's not going to be out there, the volume alone, the probability of him hitting those 3-pointers just because he's going to get the shot attempts, I felt like something was looking at. Also points, if you potentially wanted to look there, is 13.5 for him. I know Detroit plays pretty well defensively at home, so I thought maybe gravitating more toward over 2.5 made threes for Grayson Allen here with the injuries in the backcourt for Phoenix was something to look at. That was at the top of my list. Also, Brooks, if Devin Booker's not going to play, I would assume that this is going to be Grayson Allen and Dillon Brooks, but you know a little bit more about the way the shot volume would go. But Allen over 2.5 threes at the top of my list to consider here.
Yeah, I think that Allen over 2.5 threes is a good look with or without Booker. I think that Gillespie's the guy that gets a big bump if there's no Booker. Just be relying a lot more on his shot creation. Like he's had 2 pretty big games without Booker this season, and I think that he's going to be worth a look there as well. I don't really hate an Allen play. I think over 13.5 is a really good number for him to score points too, because I think that like he's a really good shooter, but he's gotten really good at attacking closeouts too. So he's pretty eager to drive to the basket as well. But yeah, nothing for me in this game. If Booker plays, if he ends up being ruled active and like this stays at around 6.5, I'd be really interested in Phoenix, but nothing for me other than that.
All right, yeah, that was the only thought that I had here. Anything on Brooks? Like you think that maybe there would be something there with him?
Yeah, I think that Brooks, like, again, with or without Booker, like the shot attempts are always up, and he's, never shy about getting his shots up. So I think that he's, worth a look in this game, especially because he's not going to care at all about like the Pistons, like toughness or perceived toughness. Like he's just going to go out there and play his game, and he's scored 21 plus, and I believe 3 of his last 4. So he's just been, playing some really great basketball. And I like that he's gotten a little bit of love in like the fringe all-star, conversation, even though he's not really an all-star. But yeah, I'm excited to see this team once once Jalen Green comes back, because I think that, Jordan Ott has proved that he can kind of put all of his players in good positions to succeed, and Green is really, really talented. So if you're getting the Green that was like promised out of the G League, like you're all of a sudden looking really talented.
Yeah, I would agree. I am. I'm actually really. This card I think today is pretty good, but this is near the top of the list in terms of games I want to watch tonight.
Yeah, it is a really good card, and we're about to get into the two, I think, like major ones. So
yeah,
we'll talk a little bit about this one first. Celtics at Heat, 7:30 p.m. Eastern tip. The Celtics are 2.5 point road favorites. The total is 234.5. Do you have anything in this one? I know that you're a bit of a Celtic skeptic, so I'm interested in seeing what you have.
I see. I don't know if I'm a Celtics skeptic. I mean, I just think obviously a lot is being made of Boston in terms of the way they've been playing, and they seem to be, and I think this is pretty fair because of the way they play. They're a very high variance team, and I think that's just exactly what they want to be. Obviously, you shoot as many threes as they do, you're going to get nights like the last two nights where the offense just kind of gets disjointed, and then you're going to lose a few games, and then you're going to have some of these days where you look like world beaters at this point right now. But against Miami, I do kind of trust this team to an extent. We've talked about Miami's offensive struggles as that's kind of continued here, but Boston, I think part of my reservations about Boston is they are a very middle-of-the-pack defensive team. They don't cause a lot of turnovers. They're not a great defensive rebounding team. They're 15th in non-garbage time defensive efficiency. And so when you get them in situations like this, where they're laying like 2 on the road against a team that looks like is generally going to be healthy. I mean, Tyler Hero, I believe, is questionable. I have this on my list. Yeah, but he's probable. The only questionable is Jaime Jaquez. So I feel like with the market, there's a couple of spots that are starting to get to 1, maybe even pick. I think that Miami deserves a little bit more credit at home here against Boston. I don't think there's that much of a separation between these two teams.
Yeah, so I had a really strong lean on the Heat, and it's for the reasons you just said. Like, Boston is really, really good offensively, number 2 in the league in adjusted offensive rating, but they're number 20 in adjusted defensive rating, and Miami is number 3 in the league in adjusted defense. I think they're going to be able to somewhat slow down Boston, and I think that they're going to be able to score now that, like you said, they are getting healthier. Davion Mitchell is doubtful for tonight. Jaime Jaquez is questionable, but outside of that, you pretty much have all of your best players. So I do think this is going to be a game where Miami's going to be able to score. And I think that, a lot of people would probably point to the fact that this is a really strong rest spot for Boston. They've had 2 full days off. They haven't played since Monday, but at the same time, like they've lost 3 of their last 4. They haven't covered in 4 straight. I think that, the Heat have been playing a little bit better lately. They had the win against the Suns the other night. I think over the last 10, they're 6-4 straight up and 7-3 against the spread. So I didn't take this on the regular spread. I did one of my alternate spread parlays. Yeah, I took the Heat plus 10.5, and I parlayed it with the Spurs money line against the Bucks, which is a game that we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, this is the first leg of that, and I do think it's going to be a game that the Heat keep very close.
Yeah, I would really like that a lot. I might have to tell you on that one because I would agree for the most part. My other question for you is going to be this total. So it opened 232.5 at some spots. It's up to 235 right now. Wendy, I would expect, because we usually see this, you follow the market a lot more now because you're covering the league day to day. Usually see some of this buyback at times, like you'll see a move in one direction, and then when you get to tip off, people with higher limits will come in and they'll kind of bet this thing down. When do you think maybe some of that buyback might occur? Because I think if we're right that Boston's going to be somewhat live, or that Miami's going to be somewhat live here, I think they're going to do it through their defense. I think the market has definitely steered a lot into this, hey, Miami plays with a lot of tempo, and that's going to help these games get over. But I think at some point, if Miami's going to be the live team we want them to be, they want this thing to go under a 234.5 or so.
Yeah, I mean, the weird thing about Miami is like it's been the entire season where they've been playing at number 1 pace and still playing top 5 defense. So like they're still going over in a lot of these games, but I wouldn't want to take the under just because of the pace that they're playing at. So I don't know exactly what I would do with it if I were you, but it is definitely worth a look. But it's just really hard to trust it, especially if they're going to be like both launching threes and, Heroes playing, Powell's playing. Like there could be really a ton of 3-point attempts in this game.
Miami is like the old man's paradox in that, all these old heads keep saying like they don't play defense anymore. It's like, well, no, it's actually because they play at pace and like there's a lot more possessions. You just don't get it. And so they would see a team like Miami, but like this team sucks defensively. It's actually one of the better defensive teams in the league. You just don't really get it. So the Heat are the old man paradox. They would an old head would look at this and go, I have no idea what this is. They suck.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, old men yelling at cloud watching the Heat. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I have a lean on the Heat, but I do have that parlay, and sounds like you have the Heat as well. So well, hopefully we'll get Miami across the finish line. But the next game is actually what I think is the best game of the night. I mean, there's some other solid ones, and I think that smaller games that you could talk yourself into, but OKC taking on Houston in Houston. The Thunder are laying 3.5 points. The total is 222.5. Do you have anything here? I'm really excited for this game.
I thought you were going to go Milwaukee and San Antonio, but I guess we'll talk about this one. So I got priced out of this pretty quick, but I liked this under 225. We're down to 222.5, 221.5 in some spots. I think you can maybe talk yourself. I see a rogue 223. So if you're somewhere where you have Fanatics, I think that would make some sense if you wanted to go under that number here. But I think that this is one where you have two teams that are going to have an advantage against the other. Houston, obviously, taking on a front court that still doesn't have Isaiah Hartenstein, that's a little undersized, is going to be able to get second chance opportunities to bully the very slender Chet Holmgren. And Jalen Williams is going to do his best, but I think he's just up against it physically now that Şengün is back and now that they're fully healthy up front. And then on the other side, I do think the Thunder, especially if Lou Dort's going to be out there, he's a questionable. They got a pretty big advantage in the backcourt, especially on defense. They're going to be able to match up with these guys relatively well. The ball handling, the creation's not the best for the Houston Rockets. We know that the skid that they were on and, the struggles they've been having a little bit. And I think that this lends itself to being a somewhat low-scoring and kind of gritty defensive game. And I think OKC is starting to kind of get their verve back a little bit. We obviously saw what they did against San Antonio. The defense is kind of starting to right the ship. I think much like we've talked about with some of these other teams, the sky was falling for OKC for a bit. And I still agree with our overall premise. I've talked to you about it. I've talked to Mitch about it. The degree to which they're favored in the Western Conference, I think, is too high, and mainly because of the presence of what I believe to potentially be the best team in the West, which is Denver. But I still think that this OKC team is that really solid, strong, backcourt defensive team. And their backcourt's healthy again, too. If Dort plays, everybody, it's going to be out there. So I think this could be a pretty low-scoring affair between the two. But again, this got moved already 3 points in some spots. So I'll see if maybe there's some buyback to get under the number that I want. But I got priced out.
Yeah, this is actually the second time in a row there's been a huge OKC game that I want to have something on, and I don't. Yeah. I do have a lean on Houston, and I think I would play Houston if I can get 5 or 5.5. I just don't think we're going to get it. But you said it. The most important thing that I have written down here is that Hartenstein's out for OKC, and I think that Jalen Williams was one of the X factors against San Antonio last game, but that was because of his 3-point shooting. I don't know that he's going to be big enough or strong enough to kind of bang with the Houston bigs. And I think that there's a chance that the Rockets really kind of bully them inside. And I think they're going to be really hungry to win this game just because things haven't been going very well lately. They lost the game on opening night. I think that this is a game that means more to Houston. And this is a team that has been really good as a home underdog under Ime Udoka, which obviously they don't play a lot of games like that. But this is also a game where it's really hard to bet too, because the whistle's going to decide kind of everything. How physical will they let Amen Thompson defend SGA? If he's going to be called for a foul on everything, they have no chance. But if they kind of let him play like a playoff style of basketball, I think the Rockets win this game outright.
Well, and then that's, I think, important, too, for the total, too. If I like this thing under, like you said, if they're calling every little pinky that hits his jersey, then all of a sudden we're going to be screwed. And you're going to see an SGA game, because that was the underrated part about their first 3 games against San Antonio. I brought this up to Stormy. In the first 3 games, he had 17 total free throw attempts. In the last game they played, he had 13. So it's not that they're reliant on these free throws, but it does change the way these games get played. And especially if we're talking about trying to get under a total. And to your point, look, this is only the second time they've played against each other, but the first time they played, and that's when OKC was at relative full strength up front, Houston still beat them up on the glass. They out-rebounded them 52-38. What's that going to look like here in this one? They had 16 offensive rebounds in that game as well, so that should help Houston. I'm with you. If this gets up to that 5.5 range, I'd be more than willing to grab some of Houston if we get there by the time we get to tip-off.
Yeah, and I think that Houston's gotten worse in a lot of ways, but one player that's gotten better is Reed Shepherd, who was awful in the opening night game. So I'd be interested in seeing what that looks like tonight. If he looks okay defensively, that's a huge X factor for them, but he was awful on that end of the floor in the first one. So I am really interested in kind of just seeing what he looks like individually here, because this is a game that I still view Houston as a Western Conference contender, and this is kind of a chance for them to prove it. They have not looked great over the last 2 weeks.
No, and we should know too, I think, in part of their struggles they've been playing away from home. This is one of the better home teams in the NBA. In fact, they're behind Oklahoma City in terms of net rating at home and non-garbage time. They've outscored teams by 14 points every 100 possessions at home. They're 12-2 straight up at home. The second best offensive team when they play at home. So whatever the issues are for this team, they have struggled away from home, but the Rockets are a pretty good home team.
Yep. All right, well, if you're looking to sharpen your edge this NBA season, VSiN Pro is where to start. Get advanced analytics, player prop projections, and expert insights used by serious bettors every single day. Try it out for only $9.99 for your first month and see what smart bettors are using to beat the books. Head to vsin.com/subscribe and check out all of the subscription options. All right, well, let's move on now to your game of the night, the Bucks at the Spurs. Tips at 8 p.m. Eastern. This is a game where the Bucks are getting 7.5 points. Totals 225.5. I just mentioned it before. I have the Spurs money line in this game in a parlay. I don't know what I would do with the spread, but if I had to take something, I'd parlay it with San Antonio because I think we're entering some dangerous territory for both Giannis Antetokounmpo and Doc Rivers.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to talk about, because when I see this number, which is now, what are we up to, 7.5 right now? I see an 8 right now at circa. I want to take Milwaukee. I like that number. I think is too much, especially Giannis is improbable. And when Giannis is on the floor, statistically, we know what they are. We can roll through the numbers, but this number initially kind of grates against what I believe to be what Milwaukee is with Giannis out there on the floor. But having said that, this is, I'll go back to last time I was with you. Situational stuff like that. Last time we were together, Charlotte played Indiana. It was the third game in 4 nights and the second leg of a back-to-back. It was a brutal spot for them. And then sure enough, they go and they lose a game at the buzzer that they probably shouldn't have. And situationally, this seems like an absolute effing nightmare for Milwaukee. The other day, I listened to you when you were had your episode here on Harvard Handicappers. There's no Anthony Edwards. There's no Rudy Gobert. That should be a spot that Giannis is out there and you're able to do it. And instead you get blown out, not even just lose, you get blown out. And then was the clip, because I never believe anything anymore. Was the clip I saw of Giannis booing at the crowd real?
Yes.
Yes. So and then after the game, I'm sure you saw this because you're tapped in after the game, but Doc Rivers immediately is like, we tried to get this game off the schedule. We had dead legs. The NBA didn't want to take it off the schedule. And then Giannis in the locker room goes, dead legs? That's stupid. Like, no, we just lost the game. This situationally seems like you said, a nightmare. They seem to be circling the drain. Giannis keeps trying to play this game of having his cake and eating it too, complaining about the roster behind the scenes and maybe pushing to get out while also not wanting to outwardly say that he wants to get out of there. This thing is falling apart at the seams. It would look like, I don't want to say seam twice, but I just kind of think that 8 is a little much because San Antonio, to this point, guys, they've played a lot of basketball recently. And I know we usually do like the 5 and 7, and I know 6 and 10 really isn't that much, but they've had multiple back-to-backs in these scenarios. Like, I think situationally it's not great for San Antonio, and this is such a big number. I am fascinated by this game today, as you can tell.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, my first thought is that laying the points seems a little sucker tonight as well, because I just do think that everyone has that same overall sentiment as I do, that the Bucks are falling. And I agree with you too. When Giannis is on the floor, that team looks completely fine to me, but it's when he's off the floor lately that they've been just letting games get completely away and then they're asking him to bring it back. And I don't know. I just think this is a game they're going to lose. So that's why I played it the way that I played it instead of actually having to lay points. So took the coward's way out, but it is a Spurs team that's returning home after 2 road losses. I think there's going to be, some relief there to be playing in San Antonio. But as you said, the old school handicappers thought of coming back home. It's never good. But this Bucks team also 1-12 straight up over the last 2 years as road underdogs of 6.5 to 12 points. So they've not been good, or they just don't ever win games they're really not supposed to win under Rivers. I just wonder what that's going to look like here.
It's funny. I do, this is not a humble brag, but I do a lot of stuff like you and all those other pods. So I forget what I talk to people about. And yesterday, I don't know who was coming back home from a road trip. I think it might've been in the NHL. But I quipped to Stormy at one point. I go, they got to go home and take care of these broads. And she looks at me. She's like, "What are you doing? What are you talking about?"
What is that?
I haven't told you about this. To the point too, and obviously Stormy, I don't know if you guys know this. She's a female, so I don't know if she really appreciated it too much. But I explained it. She got it. Giannis on the floor. They've outscored opponents by 9.5 points every 100 possessions. They average 124.7 points every 100 possessions. That's 90th and the 96th percentile in terms of net rating and offensive rating. They are one of the best teams when he plays. And I feel maybe it's a first quarter play then, right? I mean, Giannis is out there and he's, mostly with that starting lineup and the rotation works and all those sort of things. But yeah, that's why I said this is my game. I cannot wait. All the narrative and everything around it. I am very interested to see what's going to happen here.
Yeah, and I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but like Giannis I think he's trying to like turn the fans against him so that it's easier for him to leave now. It's his new plays. It was originally like, all right, I'm going to have my agent ask out. Now it's like, all right, you guys don't want me here, which is kind of what Durant did in Phoenix. Like he keeps being like, oh, they pushed me out. But like, I think that there's going to be a little bit of that where it's like, all right, fine. If you guys boo me, then I will leave.
So I'm not a wrestling guy, but I believe that's easy. Turning heel. Is that the term?
Yes. It's turning heel. Yep. All right, well, let's move on now to the Jazz at the Mavericks. This game tips at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. The Mavericks are 1.5 point favorites. The total is 236.5. I don't have anything for sides and totals here. I got jazzed yesterday because I took them really early in the morning when Markkanen was not on the early injury report. About 45 minutes later with these new 15-minute updates, boom, illness, not questionable. And then like very quickly turned into out. And I ended up losing on that game last night, which they almost won. But I did take Jusuf Nurkic over 22.5 combined points and rebounds tonight at -125. Over the last 10 games, he's averaging 15.4 points per game, 11.7 rebounds per game, putting up huge numbers. And Dallas has been the second worst team in the league defending inside 10 feet this year. Also pretty weak defensively when talking about rebounding, now that they've just kind of lost every center that they have on the roster. Mm-hmm. So I do think that Nurkic is going to have a pretty big game with or without Lowry.
I kind of want to bet Dallas here. I would expect that Cooper Flagg is not going to be available, and we're out to one right now. So, like you said, second leg of a back-to-back here for Utah. I think that, and this has kind of been passed around in NBA media circles, and this might be a pretty good handicapping angle for Utah. Watch out for Utah in some of these spots where they're taking on teams that are around them in the standings, especially when they have the out of playing on the second leg of a back-to-back. They might be sitting both Keontae George and Lauri Markkanen tonight.
Yeah.
This is a team, and before, because I think a lot of people would rebut if you've been following the league, well, they played like 2 weeks ago, John, and they beat Dallas. That's when Dallas still had AD, and they didn't view them as a team that was going to tank. Now, Dallas, look, they don't have a pick next year, and AD is hurt. This is going to be a team that I think is going to be more than willing. This is a quiet tank-off game, and I wouldn't be surprised because Jazz opened up as a 1 point favorite, I think I want to take Dallas here, and this is a little bit of a playing the game, so we'll see what happens. And would you be surprised, Zach, if in whatever amount of hours we get the injury report and Keontae George and Lauri Markkanen are questionable, and one, if not both, are not playing because they want to protect this pick that's top 8 protected, and they can do so by directly losing these games against teams that are with them in the standings?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if both guys are out tonight, and especially with last night being like a close game. It's like that's the way they could justify it in their own heads. Like Markkanen, popped up as ill like yesterday. Like how long is that going to last? It's like, is he going to be better today? I don't know. I think that there's a really good chance that they missed this game. And like you just said, like this, they did go from -1 to +1.5. Like I wouldn't be surprised if the odds makers already know a little bit of information.
I mean, look what they did against Charlotte. They sat guys and they were just like, no, we're good. Like, I'm out. I guess, do I bet an alternate line of over 50 points for Bryce Sensabaugh? What's gotten into this dude lately?
He's awesome. I actually think that he's a really good scorer. So I would definitely be interested in that as well. I mean, I think
especially if Key's going to be out, right? If George is going to be out in here, and same with Markkanen.
Yeah, and then like I don't know, there's a lot of guys in this team that you could look to the player props market, like Collier over assists. If like he's going to play bigger minutes, like he's one of the best passers in the league, in my opinion. So I know if that's another way to look at it. Yeah, this is a really good player props game. All right, well, let's move on now to Knicks at Warriors. This game tips at 10 p.m. Eastern. Like you said before, Jalen Brunson sprained his ankle before, so we do not know the status of him, but it definitely looks like he's not playing when you look at the spread. The Warriors are 6.5 point favorites. Totals 228.5. Did you do anything with this one?
No, so 7.5, I will say, as this maybe starts to climb, and once we get the official news, maybe it's a little high. I'm going to be interested to see what the Knicks do here to bounce back. I like Mike Brown a lot, and I think he's a pretty good coach. And I think this screams situationally that he's probably going to get after these guys a little bit and try to get them to come out. I mean, Cat yesterday, I don't know what the hell that was. Especially the viral sequence where he's like sitting on the floor and then guys are running up and down and all that kind of stuff. Like it was a nightmare. Brown even came out. I don't know if you saw him in the press conference afterwards, like directly addressed it. It was like, we can't do that. We gave up 5 points. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I think that this seems, obviously without Brunson, this is going to be, they're up against it, but if you give me 7.5, and I know that Cat and some of these others are going to be out there, I think Brown's probably going to be after him to kind of bounce back in a really strong way here after last night against Golden State.
Yeah, I mean, I did think that the points were a lot. I ended up taking the Warriors money line in another parlay, so I have two parlays for tonight. But I think that Golden State's going to win this one. I don't know if they're going to do it by margin, but they have won, 3 of their last 4 games. They also haven't played a back-to-back in like 12 or 13 days, so like that's pretty good rest for an older team. So I do think situationally this is a really good spot for the Warriors, but I don't have a lot between these teams, and I think the Knicks are the better team. So I'm with you that like thinking that this might be a lot of points, especially because Brunson, like, he's the type of tough player that like he might have sprained his ankle last night. Wouldn't be surprised if he's just out there later. Like, it wouldn't shock me at all. Like, he wants to play every single night. But I do think physicality kind of favors Golden State with Draymond against those bigs for New York. And I do think that shot making on the perimeter, if Brunson is out, definitely skews towards Golden State. So I think this is going to be a really interesting game to watch. But I do think the Warriors win outright. And I personally parlayed that with Hornets plus 10.5. And I know that you like Charlotte a little bit.
Yeah. No, and I would say this too. I'm going to be curious because you're right. I think overall Brunson's a pretty, he's a tough guy, right? I'm going to go play no matter what. You are seeing this new regime with Brown specifically being more than willing to obviously play. They've been playing a ton of guys. And I think that also steers into taking care of their guys as well. I think they would be foolish in a Western Conference road trip game to just force him to do this. I think they're probably telling him to sit tonight.
Yep. I agree.
They're smarter with their player, with the usage of their players, we'll say.
Yep. All right, well, let's go to Hawks at Blazers now. This is a game where the Hawks are 4.5 point favorites. The total is 231.5. And I'll be honest, I have absolutely nothing for this game. I have a lean on a player prop on Donovan Clingan over 11.5 rebounds because the Hawks are a little undersized now and a really weak rebounding team. But I don't know that I want to take a number that high. And Denny Avdia is out for the Blazers. So it's a little hard for me to make up my mind on a side or total here. But do you have anything?
If you're going to give me Avdia, I would say Portland, but it really didn't have anything here. Atlanta, I just have this feeling, because without Trae Young, they've obviously, does the market think that this team is the first, 15 odd games without Trae Young and has power rated them a little too high as opposed to being the team, and you've called this out, right before Trae Young came back, they were kind of sliding and they weren't particularly great. And I think Atlanta's a little overvalued. I just want something more than just Drew Holiday out there for Portland. Like, I want Denny Avdia. I want another outlet offensively. But I do think I'm going to carry forward with the sense that Atlanta's a little overvalued. That was embarrassing against the Lakers the other day. And then now here you are on the road against a plucky Portland team. Would lean toward Portland, but I would want another offensive weapon out there for Portland to really steer into that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on all that. I mean, the Hawks are supposed to be a defensive-minded team. They couldn't do anything against that Lakers team. And then offensively, to not take advantage of the Los Angeles defense was really embarrassing. So, yeah, I'm with you. Like, the Hawks, they were sliding before they traded Young. That performance definitely wasn't great last night. I think if you take Jalen Johnson kind of out of the game and make things tough on him, that team really struggles offensively.
Yeah. And in theory, really quickly, that should have a matchup they can work in because you just have a whole bunch of big-bodied wings. Like, you have multiple guys to throw at Luka Doncic, and instead, it was nothing. So, pretty embarrassing.
All right, well, let's move on to another game of the night. Let's call it a 1B. Yeah, the game of the night. The Hornets at the Lakers, 10:30 p.m. Eastern tip. Lakers are 4.5 point favorites. Totals 231.5. I just mentioned I have Hornets plus 10.5 in a parlay. Do you have anything in this game?
Yeah, so I took I like Portland. I took over. Gee, I can't speak. I took Hornets plus the 4.5 here, and I do like this game over the total. Some 231.5 are starting to appear, so let's see how low this gets. I think the market sees two pretty slow-paced teams, and they are. Like, for the season, these are two teams that rank in the 20s in terms of tempo, but this is a good injury report for the Hornets right now. The only questionable is Colin Sexton and Moussa Diabate. If you look at what they are, and we know they're big three, Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, Con Knippel, this is a team that is plus 13.6 in those minutes per 100 possessions in non-garbage time. They're in the 99th percentile of offensive rating. They're below average in defensive rating. And I think the best part, and this is why I kind of like this over as well, when those three are out there, Zach, they're actually a much quicker team in terms of transition. They rank in the 96th percentile in frequency of transition possessions off live rebounds, 84th overall in transition. They're not the same slower tempo team when they have all three of their guys out there. So I think that they're going to be able to lull the Lakers into getting up and down the floor a little bit more. The Lakers, you mentioned when we were talking about Atlanta, not being able to take advantage of Lakers' poor defense. This is a bad defensive team. You should be able to get over this number. And I'll invoke something similar to what we talked about when we talked about that Pacers game last week, in that, look, man, if you're going to be this real big boy team with your 3 young stars that are out there playing, Lakers are a team you should be able to be competitive against and stay inside of this number. So I think all of these things put together, that leads me to going with the Hornets. You know that there's no Austin Reeves. We'll see if Jackson Hayes plays today. He's questionable, but I think Charlotte deserves a little bit more respect. I think these two teams are closer to equals to each other. It's not a back-to-back situation for them either. So if all 3 of them are out there, I think over and Hornets the play tonight.
Yeah, I have the same lean on the over as well. I wrote that down here. Like, this could be a really ugly game for both defenses. I don't trust either group to get consistent stops. But yeah, I have a strong lean on the Hornets. I took them plus 10.5 in that one play just for a little bit of extra cushion. But I would say another kind of big X factor in this game is Diabate, who just has like a nonstop motor inside, and he's going against DeAndre Ayton, who can be really lazy and just kind of soft. So I wouldn't be surprised if he just eats them up on the offensive boards. And I love this Hornets team right now. I think that they're playing like a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference, and I think that I knock on wood, I think we're all going to do fine with our win totals, but I think that this team is now thinking a little bit bigger than that. Like, if they get into the playoffs, they're all of a sudden a team that nobody wants to see in a best of 7.
Oh, especially like a weak top of the East. I mean, like, I like Detroit a lot, but that would be a pain in the ass 1-8 series. You know, if you're playing best of 7 against this Hornets team that's got nothing to lose, and they're just sprinting up and down the floor, and it's Knipple and it's LaMelo. And by the way, I think this helps me with the total really quickly. This seems to be the premier game of like, hey, I'm complaining about a foul while the game is going in the opposite direction. Both teams are probably going to be doing this a ton. So you could get a lot of just easy free runouts between these two. It just seems like it might be the most ridiculous, undisciplined game we're going to see. So I think that should help a lot too.
Yeah, LaMelo might have like a quick hit ahead pass before Luka even gets his first word out to the ref. So,
right, dude, it's going to be incredible. I feel like this is, and I'm glad it's a late game. I don't know what channel it's on, but it doesn't tip until like 7:45. Like, that's going to be our time, so that's going to be awesome.
Yep. All right, well, before we recap our best bets, attention any listeners who are new to VSiN, signing up for our free daily newsletter is a great way to catch up. Delivered straight to your inbox every morning, VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, and strategies for the day's betting menu. Sign up for free now at vsin.com/newsletter and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That's vsin.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. All right, well, why don't you let the people know what your official plays are for tonight?
Yep. All right, so we talked through a couple of them, so we'll hit those. I'm going to add Grayson Allen over 2.5 made threes at -115. Also on the card as well, Miami Heat +2 against the Boston Celtics. I am not going to, for now, listen to Money Moves later to see whether or not I officially decide to do this. I do think the Bucks number is a little too high. And then we'll go with Hornets +4.5 and over 231.5.
That's a good tease for Money Moves too, so make sure you guys listen to it later. I have 4 plays for tonight. 2 of them definitely more confusing, and I just threw them in there before. But all right, Anthony Black over 15.5 points at -115. I actually played that to win 1.5 units versus the Grizzlies, so one of my bigger player prop plays of the season. I have a parlay of the Heat on an alternate spread of +10.5 versus the Celtics, with the Spurs money line against the Bucks. That's -141. I have Yusuf Nurkic over 22.5 points and rebounds at -125 versus the Mavericks. And then I have a parlay with the Warriors money line versus the Knicks and Hornets alternate +10.5 versus the Lakers at -111. So those 4 plays for me. I'm looking forward to having you back on next week. Hopefully we have you on Thursday, and good luck with your bets, everybody, tonight. We'll talk to you tomorrow for a Friday edition of Hardwood Handicap.